Hi, my name is Bronwyn Burns, and this is my permaculture design project. To begin with, I set some design goals. The main one is to implement an edible garden that supplements our food source using permaculture principles. The second is it needs to stay within the scope of what is achievable by two people. And three, according to my husband, it must have a fire pit. The site analysis, it's a rental property on a very steep slope on the side of a mountain covered by old growth redwood forest in Mill Valley, California. There are a few existing retaining walls, a very long staircase, a carport, and a 2-bedroom house. Here you can see the property mapped out to scale. There's a road to the top and a road at the bottom, and the top of the map is the higher elevation, and you can see it goes down pretty steep down to the lower road. Here are the different zones laid out. Mainly the deck is the most usable area. Because the land is part of a forest, there's very little direct sunlight. Almost all of the accessible areas are in partial or full shade. The tall house of our neighbor to the south also blocks a lot of sun. The map on the left in purple shows the areas that get partial shade and full shade, so you can see how little light there really is. On the right, there's the winter and summer sun in blue and yellow, showing you the path of the sun across the property. The property gets about 41 inches of rain a year, but almost none of it falls between July and October. The water rolls down the mountainside from the top of the map to the bottom and only really collects along structures. There's also a lot of animals that come in and out of the property. So on the left, you can see where the areas where water collects, mostly around the retaining walls, and on the right, you can see the paths of the animals that come in and around the property. While assessing the property, I found a couple areas of note. The first is that above the main retaining wall, there are a bunch of wild blackberry bushes growing. There's a strip behind the house that is mainly gravel and concrete, and because of the shadow of the house and the wall, very little actually grows back here. I tried putting a compost tumbler, but there wasn't enough heat and size to actually have it work, which we'll talk more about in a bit. There's a large deck, which is a great place for container planting, especially with them on wheels because it allows me to move them around. There is an upper terrace kind of area above a retaining wall, which we have started converting to a planting bed. It's also the only place where you can really hang a hammock swing. The previous tenant cut an area that I think was supposed to be a dog run, but it's just this really rough patch of land surrounded by a crappy old fence that is begging to have something done with it. There's also a little pocket next to the lower steps where there used to be a big tree. We don't have the resources to pull that big old stump out, but it seems like a good place to put a planting container at least to take advantage of the light and the water. Also, the roof seems to be the only place that gets full sun on the property. Okay, so here is my proposed design. I've broken it up into different sections that kind of break down the different phases. Beginning with A is I converted that failed compost tumbler into a worm bin. And it's in a great location where it is because it's right outside of the kitchen. And with a little bit of trimming, those blackberries can be brought back and kept at a reasonable length and also provide a bunch of great blackberries. In section B, we converted that retaining wall to be more of a planting terrace. We built a little wooden wall with some rebar and some found sticks to kind of separate the path from the natural forest. And we leveled out that ground. For section C, there is a large container for collecting rainwater, and it's right next to a bunch of the planting beds, so it has easy access. Section D is kind of just a centrally located tool storage, just kind of right in the middle. It's another gravel patch. And with like, if we just put in a little step there and some hooks, it'll be great for storing all of our tools. The next one, section E, is the one that is the most work. So we want to, that's the area that was the dog run. So it's this space right here. And not only have we already put in some hanging wall planters, which you can see in that picture, we are planning on putting in a terrace that works on contour, that again uses found branches and rocks and debris from the side of the mountain to build up the planting bed. And then, because a fire pit seems like a really poor idea in the middle of a forest, we've decided to put in a cob oven. Not only will it let us cook pizzas, but it will also serve a lot of the same social functions as a fire pit. Also, it allows us to practice cob, and it gives us another row of planting beds, which we plan on putting in culinary herbs like oregano and basil and parsley and rosemary and all of those good things. So next is section F. That's where that big tree stump was. I want to put in a container that's got an avocado tree, and do a trellis that goes over the stairs there with beans and peas and things like that, to kind of utilize extra space there. G is the new location for the compost pile, and that will use the lower end of what was that dog run, turn it into a big open compost pile, and then to the left, I want to plant a whole bunch of insectaries and wild flowers and native species. And I've found some distributors of native seeds, and some beautiful native species to put in there. So finally, we have section H, which is that deck, and I've got a bunch of planters that I'm trying to put more than one species in each planter. And I've got a plant list breakdown in this folder, that's got the specific plants that go in each bed corresponding to the numbers on the design. So all of those planters are on wheels, so we can move them around throughout the year to get optimal sunlight. Finally, I have I marked on the roof, which is just if we end up in this house for more than the 2-year lease we've currently signed, I would love to adapt the roof to better collect rainwater and put some solar panels up there for when we have emergency blackouts. And that is my design. Thank you very much. My document does include the permaculture principles used and a budget and a timeline, but I think I've run out of time to go over all of that in my presentation. Thank you.